Bienvenidos to Cafecito with HPPR, where we sip coffee, share stories, and celebrate the impact of parks and recreation in our communities. Grab your cafecito and join us for inspiring conversations on leadership, culture, and career growth. Let's build connections one sip at a time.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Cafecito with HPPR, the podcast where we sip coffee, talk about how parks and recreation professionals shape Hispanic communities. Today, I'm very excited. We are welcoming Cynthia Aguilar. She is the director of City of Phoenix Parks and Recreation Department. She has really shown her leadership in Phoenix. Cynthia, you are responsible for one of the largest municipal park systems in the nation, including more than 41,000 acres, 189 parks, and 200 plus miles of hiking trails. That is awesome. And today we'll be discussing leadership challenges and success and how it impacts Hispanic communities. Welcome, Cynthia.
Hi, Maria. Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here today.
Awesome. Okay, so we always like to start off with a fun question to kind of do a little fun coffee icebreaker. Cynthia, do you have a go-to coffee order? And what's the story behind it? Or if you don't drink coffee, what is your drink of choice in the morning?
I am not a coffee drinker, but I am an iced tea drinker. So my source of caffeine every morning is just a basic iced black tea, and that will make my day. And usually I have more than one a day.
Nice. From any particular place or just?
We have a grocery chain here called AJ's, and that's probably my favorite tea. And I love Dutch Brothers tea. Fun fact, I'm not really a Starbucks person, so.
Ooh. Hot take. Getting to know the guests. Cynthia, tell me about your journey. How did you stumble into Parks and Rec? Is that something you've always wanted to do? Worked your way up? Like how did you get here?
Yeah, I've been very blessed. I did not know this was the field that I would go into or stay in, but when I was in college here at Arizona State University, I needed a part-time job that worked with my college schedule, and I knew people who worked for the City of Phoenix Parks Department, and I knew I liked working with kids and working with communities, so it was a natural fit at the time, and I started working in the after-school program. So I'd go to school in the morning, work in the city's after-school programs after that, and really grew to love it. I loved the work instantly. I still probably didn't realize that that's what I wanted to do my entire career, but I knew it was something I could certainly do through college and maybe a little beyond. And I was lucky once I graduated. The city was hiring several recreation coordinators. So I moved from a part-time position to a full-time recreation position and started in my career early on overseeing after-school programs at a greater level, working with kids' sports programs at community centers, and really just continued to get some great opportunities. And then at that point, I would say I knew it was somewhere that I wanted to stay and something that I wanted to continue to do.
That's amazing. Do you have any, personal memories that connect you to Parks and Rec or anything that kind of comes to mind?
Yeah, absolutely. I always say I was a Parks and Recreation kid even before I started working. So again, I don't think I realized that connection when I found that job opportunity, but looking back, I myself, that's where my family went to sign me up for things, whether they were dance classes or sports programs or after school programs. I certainly tried many of the things that we offer today. And now as a mom, I make sure that my kids enjoy those same opportunities.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. So today, our topic is discussing leadership challenges and success. And Cynthia, I have a couple questions for you, just so our listeners or viewers can get a glimpse into you and kind of how you use your leadership skills for your everyday life. So what challenges have you faced? And this is specifically to you being as a woman, mother, moving into a management and executive position?
Gosh, it's been an amazing career, but I think like everyone, there's certainly challenges that are presented along the way. As a mom, I'll start there. As a woman and a mom, I think there's some unique challenges at times, but I would say, interestingly enough, guilt was really a challenge for me in terms of feeling like women and mothers are expected to kind of balance it all or answer that constant question about how do you have work-life balance, which I'm not sure totally exists for me, but just dealing with the guilt of feeling like you're pulled in a million different directions was a real challenge throughout my career, especially once I became a mother. I would say that's the case. And this constant feeling of juggling and worrying that you're going to drop something, and that you're going to disappoint somebody. And so I think I always kind of struggle with, who am I going to disappoint? The community, an event I'm supposed to be at, that they expect me to be at, rightfully so. My children who might have a sports activity or something at their school. And I think that weighs heavily on women, not that it doesn't on men or fathers, but I think women are expected. You very much feel like you're at work and you're making all these decisions here and taking care of people, and you go home and you kind of do the same thing. And that was, a challenge in feeling like you can find a way to do it all if you let go of some of that pressure that you put on yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And do you think, as a follow-up question, do you think that is different from being a Latina or Hispanic mother?
That's a great question. I think there have certainly been times where I have felt like that, and I was sharing with someone that every year when I go to NRPA and I go to the conference and I walk the exhibit halls, that, you've been there, right? And you're walking around and the vendors are constantly wanting to talk to people. I genuinely feel at times like they don't recognize that I'm a director, or they will gravitate towards one of my colleagues who is a man who is with me to have that conversation with. And so it's really interesting where there are those moments and you're in a room or in a situation where you certainly have that thought and wonder if that is the case, or times when your knowledge or experience is being questioned or challenged, and it can start to feel that way.
Yeah, definitely tough. Yeah. So what has really been some of your greatest lessons learned as a leader? And I know, we learn lessons every single, year, but what have been those that really come to mind when you are, talking to others about some of the things that you've gone through?
I think, some of the greatest lessons learned for me is just how important investing in your team is, and it sounds like we all know that, right? But in the day-to-day grind, you can get busy and think that you're doing it, and you just have to be more intentional. There were times throughout my career where I thought, yeah, I do that. I care about people, I ask how their day was. I try to know something about their family. And as much as you think that is good, it doesn't always feel like enough to your team. And so I've just, again, had to become more intentional about making the time to invest in our team, getting to know them, at a deeper level than a superficial level. That goes a long way for many reasons, obviously. I've also had to learn to, really lead with empathy, even though, again, you can feel like you're empathetic and inside you are. It may not come across that way sometimes to people. And thankfully, I've had some good colleagues or people that have worked for me that felt good enough about giving me that kind of advice or telling me, that they didn't feel that, and being able to kind of become more self-aware.
Yeah. And I will say, I feel like in the past couple of years, getting to know some of the, the people that you work with, to me, from an outsider's perspective, it always feels like you guys are really united. Like you guys are really such a group. I mean, yes, conference is, a couple days out of the year, but it really goes to show the impact that you're really making, because Tony, we work with him in HPPR, and he's always raving about, community and what can we do for each other and what can we do for the people that we work with to make them feel valued. I know he's really big, exactly what you're talking about.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. We are so lucky. We have a great team here in Phoenix, and they work really hard, and they genuinely love what they do, and it shows. I never have to, worry about that, and they stay. And so it's so nice with people that have just been here, for years or decades, and the community benefits from that consistency and passion. So it's great.
Definitely. So what does being a Latina in a leadership role mean to you?
I probably don't sit back and think about it as enough, as I should, because you do it, right? And I started in preparation for this, really thinking about it. And it's important. Representation is important. We all recognize that, and it's something easy to say, but being the first Latino or Latina Parks Director in Phoenix is kind of surprising, right? Because we have well over 40% Latino population here. We're the largest majority now. And it makes you pause and go, wow, we're represented at maybe some of these other levels. So it's important. I want other people and other people like me to feel like they can see themselves in this role and beyond, and in any role in our department. And hopefully it's, motivation. It creates a sense of belonging for people where they feel like they too, could belong in something that maybe they hadn't really thought about aspiring to do one day.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely inspiring for me when you see people that look like you in leadership roles, especially, being a woman. So
thank you.
I'm just going to dive into it, JC. Okay. So Cynthia, how do you work through some of your most difficult times as a leader?
There are certainly very difficult times, and I try to be honest with my team about those times so that we can work through them together and learn from those difficult times. But I would say that I really think things through. I really take time to process instead of rushing. I don't think that was always the case with me. I think earlier in my career, I might have rushed to make decisions. And now I've really learned the importance of just kind of pausing and taking the time to process that and talking it through with others as well, versus feeling like you always have to be the one to take that on, and having trusted team members, colleagues, taking it, home to talk about. Those are all things that I do to kind of get through some of the challenging times. And then I think it's important for anyone who's involved in some of these challenging times to come back together and talk it through, and a challenging time can be a challenge with the community. It can be a time we failed the community. It could be a lot of different things in our profession, as you know. And I think at times people can feel like, oh, you don't talk about those things, publicly all the time. And I think it's important to do that and be honest.
And, this is like a very basic question, I would say. But what do you think is your leadership style? Is that something that changes to who you're talking to, who's in the room with you? Or is that something that, is being developed still, it morphs?
Yeah, I definitely feel like my styles have morphed and throughout my entire career. As a young supervisor, you only know what you know, right, at that time. And it's definitely evolved. And then in government, you also have to lean towards certain styles too. So it's positional. It's, it can certainly be something that evolves and changes. So right now, I think the styles that would probably best represent me are situational leadership and transformational leadership. I think in this role, you have to be able to communicate a vision to people and keep them informed, and also be motivating enough, to get people to want to help you implement that vision, and feel like they're a part of it. So that's really important. Situational, I think, gets to some of what you were talking about, where it can kind of change depending on the team or the team members and the task at hand, if you will. And I will say that was not always my strength. There was a moment in my career where I felt like, gosh, everyone should just understand this, and this shouldn't be that hard. And then you evolve and you learn that's never going to work. You have to adapt your style as the leader, where sometimes leaders can feel like, oh no, the employee has to, adapt to my leadership style. And the reality probably is it takes both, right? It takes both to really be the most productive people and provide the best services and work we do for the community. So
Yes.
I think it's important. Everyone, I've learned everyone receives information differently. Everyone processes it differently. What some you can be direct with someone about, you have to really take your time with somebody else instead of saying, oh, that person's just sensitive, or whatever you might chalk it up to be. And that's how you're going to get the most production out of people too, I believe.
Yeah, definitely give a take, access the room, see who's there with you. Yeah. So Cynthia, last question to kind of wrap everything up. What has helped you become successful in your career, whether that's any education, any networking, anybody that really has helped you really pave the way? What are those things that have really helped you be successful?
You said networking, and I say building relationships, I would probably say is the number one thing, and although I've worked predominantly in the same organization my entire career, I have built a network internally and externally, and that has really been critical, I think, in my success, because no matter what role you're in, you need people to be successful, and it has to go both ways. And I've worked really hard to try to be one of those people that people know they can call and I'm going to help them. And I'm not going to say, oh, that's not my issue. That's a police department issue or a public works issue, but just internally here, helping my colleagues within my organization. And then also just getting to know people in the Parks and Recreation professional outside of Phoenix as well. So that's been really critical, I think, to my success. I've had great mentors, and we think it's important to take something from everyone, right? You can take something from every supervisor you've had, good, bad, and different. Because I've had great mentors, I've really tried to be a mentor back for people in formal programs and informal programs. And then I'm just a big believer in constantly learning, finding opportunities, whether it's a new conference, whether it's a leadership program or a development program. If I'm going to tell people that's something good for them, I feel like I also have to show them that, I take the time to invest in those kinds of things too. So those are probably some of the things that come to mind.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. That was, it's so great to always, we see people, we hear about people and we see them at conference and, but to be able to really take a deep dive into who they are as a person is really, really, really cool thing that we as a HPPR group can really do. So last question, or second to last question, what's your one key message you'd like to leave with our listeners?
I think just don't ever underestimate yourself. It's easy, especially as women, I feel like, or, Latinos or Latinas, to wonder if we should be somewhere, if we should try to be somewhere. And my confidence has certainly grown, over the years, which I'm proud of. It wasn't always this way. And I see it in other people. And you can generally kind of see when that might be lacking in someone. So I try to tell everyone, don't doubt yourself. When you are interested in making a change, trying something new, don't not do it because you think you can't do it. Be willing to try. And I think good things always happen when you do that.
Yeah, especially too when it comes from a good place in your heart. And we want to help the community. We want to help the people that we're serving. So
Absolutely.
yeah, that's great. All right, awesome. Well, where can people find you or learn more about your work? Where can people reach out?
Absolutely. Email is going to be the best way to reach me. I know it's on the screen, but cynthia.aguilar@phoenix.gov. And I promise to respond to anybody who reaches out. I love connecting with people. And so I would absolutely welcome it.
Fantastic. Well, Cynthia, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for letting me interview you on behalf of HPPR, your family here. We are just so excited to be able to launch this episode so our viewers can get to know you a little bit more. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maria. And thank you for all that HPPR is doing. I'm so proud to be a small part of it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. And if you guys want to learn more, check out HPPR online, learn more, and view some released new episodes. Thank you guys for joining us on Cafecito with HPPR. Don't forget to leave a review, share this episode, and see you next time. Thank you for joining us on this Cafecito. We hope today's conversation gave you a little inspiration, connection, and community. If you want to learn more about how Hispanic professionals in park and recreation are making a difference and how you can get involved, visit us at hppr.online. Until next time, keep showing up, stay inspired, and don't forget to bring your whole self to the table. Nos vemos!